My personal game of the year is dropping in a couple of weeks. The Year of the Snake provides with the Year of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on PC. I've been talking about it ad nauseum when it was announced at the Game Awards. I was ecstatic. I was over the moon. It was the first time in a long time that I actually heard a gaming announcement that made me audibly and visibly cheer. I was doing dumbbell raises at the time, and then the news broke, and I did an impromptu shoulder press. I digress. But I'm also excited for everybody else out there because now they're finally going to get the opportunity to play something that is tremendous, something that but a few people ended up experiencing back in February of last year. Now, and at the end of January and into February of 2025, are going to be able to get something that apparently people have been wanting for a long time. It's hilarious, right? Hearing all the conversation for people, especially last year, right? Like, oh, we don't want woke video games. We just want games that are games. We want games that ship that are complete. We don't want things updated for the modern audience. It's like the Remake project is perfect. Okay. Rebirth is not getting DLC, not because the developers don't want to do it. It's because they've got a third game that they want to work on. They want to create the best possible product that they can for the audience. There's a reason that I stump for this game as hard as I do. It's because it's everything that I personally want in gaming. Great characters, an engaging plot, tremendous gameplay where everybody plays differently. It's hilarious, right? Like over the weekend when you guys are watching this, I'm hopefully going to be going through, the last part of my second hard mode playthrough, which I'm enjoying tremendously. And I'm even still learning little nuances in gameplay from certain characters. Like, I wasn't using Red 13 correctly. I thought he was kind of a, trash character. Well, not so much trash. It's just that when it came to engaging characters in combat, he would have been at the lower end of my list. Same with Aerith prior to my previous playthrough, okay? I probably picked up things a little bit more quickly with my first hard mode playthrough when it came to Aerith, but the moment that you start dropping wards, you just, a little insight, okay? You just drop a Radiant ward and then you drop an Arcane ward, and basically she's swippy swapping all around the field, just blasting people left, right, and center. You set her up with, especially with Radiant ward, and it's a wrap after that. And then you get the right mix of materia on her, and then she could have a swift cast, MP absorb, and a magic focus, especially on Quake. You drop that in an Arcane ward, and then especially on hard mode, it's a wrap. But Cloud, like for the first half of my playthrough, I was playing him wrong because I wasn't having him in the air because I didn't know that, you just dash to the side and then you just start putting your little blade beams out there and then you can zip to somebody in the air, start slashing them and then dodge out of the way if they're going to be doing something. It's tremendous. Cloud is definitely that guy in the game, but Tifa, that's the most fun to play. Barrett, especially when you start to set up his abilities right, like that guy, you just follow down your tree and he's unstoppable. I still need to figure out how to play as Cait Sith, but outside of that, like, Yuffie's tremendous. I haven't mentioned her, it just kind of goes without saying. She's just a maniac out there on the field. And somebody that, on my second playthrough, started to realize the value in throwing her shuriken in the air, keeping it aloft with, what's the ability called? Windmill, where you just keep on throwing it. You set up a doppelganger, and then you just start going bonkers, throwing windmills all the time. Mashing square to get the ninjutsu bonus. Like, she's amazing. Everybody's fun to play as, but it probably, for me, if I was to rank everybody, it would be Tifa, Yuffie, Cloud, and probably Barrett, Aerith, Red, then Cait. You just need to play as Cait more because he's fun as hell. It's just, you don't really get to play with him that much in the game. But I digress. I could talk about how much I love this game, and especially now that with the PC port, I'm going to have the opportunity to capture my own gameplay so I can get around to making that big long man review of it because I got so much stuff to say about it. One of the big voices in the space that actually played the game and has expressed appreciation for it. Shout out Critical Drinker on this one. And him highlighting a quote from the Helldivers 2 director saying, "Make good games, don't make a contemporary political statement." A quote that I'll probably be diving into next week when I do a proper video on it. But that's something that Helldivers 2 did extremely well. And now it's just the rest of the business practices and the other stuff over the top of it that made it the biggest game in the world at the beginning of 2024 and then precipitously dropping off in the aftermath. So great statement. And if you're looking for games that are tremendous and don't make contemporary political statements, Rebirth is right there. And in looking at the Steam charts and all available metrics, I don't know how many people are going to be concurrently playing it. I don't know what the line is going to read like on the 23rd when it drops, but when it comes to most this is the top sellers, not most wish listed. Okay, it's in the 25th spot still right now. Okay, and then if you knock off a bunch of these free releases and the Steam Deck as well, that's 10 spots. So it's at 15th, and it's the best performing pre-sale in pre-sale game that's out there. Okay, the next closest is Monster Hunter Wilds. That is just another non-political game, but a lot of people want to paint both of these as being just woke messes. Oh, Square Enix has an ethics department. Capcom is knee-deep in DEI. Oh, it's got a woman. Oh, they changed the model for Tifa. All of these idiots, and I'm right there at the forefront when it comes to calling out all of these woke practices in Hollywood and in gaming. But you've got to come correct. Painting with a broad brush only makes you look like an idiot, and it ends up slandering otherwise innocent parties. And it especially pisses me off when somebody says something so incomprehensibly stupid about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and its teams, because guess what? They are exactly what you want when it comes to a development team. Naoki Hamaguchi, the current director for Rebirth and for Part 3, he was an assistant director to Nomura on Remake, and by far and away the best thing to come out of Final Fantasy 13. Okay, Hamaguchi is dedicated to the success of this. And a lot of the success and a lot of the reason that Rebirth was such a smooth development cycle is because of his leadership. And Yoshinori Kitase, he's been taken out of context by a bunch of people who just think that, one line is going to go ahead and define somebody's career and define what somebody's working on. Because what was the line? I couldn't find the line, but I know that I've talked about it before. But it was something along the lines of, Kitase finally coming around and doing the remakes, rebirths, reboots, whatever you want to call it. It's such a unique take on the property that it's never really been done and very likely won't ever be done again. But he was addressing the idea that, now that we have all of this additional time and the technological advances that have happened since, 1997 when the original game dropped, is now we can finally tackle things with modern sensibilities, not meaning going back and rewriting the past. Oh, making it woke, trying to appeal to the modern audience. That's why your game failed. When in reality, we don't have concrete sales data. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth's producer says the teams are actually pretty satisfied with the game's overall sales, but does seem to imply Part 3 can't afford to release on just PS5. I hope that there's a day one PC release. I'm still, probably just simply for nostalgia's sake, as somebody who has played every Final Fantasy game on release since 8. I was a little late to the party, pal, when it came to 7. I didn't play 6 until, years and years later. I think I was in my mid-20s when I first played 6, and it's like my second or third favorite Final Fantasy game, especially when it comes to mainline Final Fantasies. Like 7, I've said this before, it might not be in my top 5, but Rebirth, if it's... God, I still don't know, man, because I got to go back and revisit my favorite game. But if it's not if Rebirth isn't my favorite game, it could very well be my second favorite game. I think I can definitively say it's in my top 2 favorite games. It's just that good. It really is, and I'm so glad more people are going to have the opportunity to play it here in a few short weeks. But talking about the fact that, they're actually satisfied with the sales, which it's like we don't know for sure. And I think that Steam release is very much going to be telling. I don't think it's going to be 6 digits, but if it's somewhere in the mid-5s, that's going to be tremendous. Anyways, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth might not have met Square Enix's sales expectations, but Square Enix has had just retarded sales expectations for a very long time. That's why they personally have been such terrible stewards for the Final Fantasy brand since the merger in 2001 was that? Anyways, but the game's producer still says that they're satisfied with them. Did you know Final Fantasy VII is the second best-selling PS1 title of all time? I might not have guessed, considering JRPGs don't sell quite as well as other games these days, but nope, that's a pretty damn popular game. There's a reason it might be getting a trilogy of remakes. Comparatively, though, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth might not be doing quite as well, as earlier this year it was reported that both that and 16 fell below Square Enix's sales expectations. That in turn led to the developer to shift gears towards multi-platform releases for its games. So even if they have ludicrous expectations where they think something that is just trapped to a console that, it's selling well-ish, has a terrible contrition rate, where Nobody wants to play games on the PS5. Like, they might have them, okay? There was a meme of the PS5 secured all the way back when it released in 2020, but how many people think of that meme over we don't have any games for the PS5? The PS5 has no games. It's a console that still lacks killer apps. That's the problem. But yes, according to Yoshinori Kitase, the director of the original game, and now he's producer, which in Japan means that in the hierarchy he's got more say, and that's normally why you'd see Hamaguchi and Kitase out there on the interview circuit. Speaking to IGN Brazil, okay, Kitase spoke of Rebirth's sales, essentially claiming that they weren't bad actually, and that they weren't, but they weren't good enough to just stick with one platform, which is, hey man, that's good as long as the game performed well enough that you can continue on at this same high caliber, but you're just going to open it up to more people. I mean, I'll take that as a W. While we are satisfied that we're meeting a certain number of sales with the current modernization state of games, we cannot be exclusive to a single platform. I think we need to be able to offer the game to as many players as we can. Exactly. That obviously isn't a guarantee for Remake Part 3, which... It's interesting, right? Because it's very likely that Sony, way back when this remake project was announced in 2015, well, it was announced in 2013? A long time ago. A long goddamn time ago. There's a big reason why, the big announcement was made at an E3 conference for Sony. Well, you got all of the heraldry and Sony putting out a dedicated state of play for Rebirth, and I think whatever they were doing at the time, having a dedicated section for Remake back prior to the launch in 2020. There's a very high likelihood that they're going to have exclusivity on the release of the entire trilogy, but there was also a short window of exclusivity. It was a year? I think it was a year for Remake, and then it was 3 months. 3 months for Rebirth, and of course it took them just a shade under 11 months to release a PC port, which is better than the 18 months. But also when Remake came to PC, it was exclusive to the Epic Game Store, and it didn't come to Steam until 6 months later, something like that. Like my timelines, it's just a whole bunch of numbers and stuff like that. But this time around, when Rebirth dropped, you could get it anywhere you want. You can get it on EGS if you're so inclined. I got it on Steam. I got it through Green Man Gaming, which was putting out the codes on Steam. But anyways, I was about this close to getting it on Steam until I waited to the next morning. It's like, is GMG going to put it up? And then they did, and I ended up saving more money on it. So fantastic. I would highly recommend you guys end up doing the same. So yeah, I think we've seen the dissolution, if there was any, of the Epic Game Store exclusivity deal. It's just when we hear more information about Remake Part 3, which I kind of think, especially the way that they're talking here, because we got more information on this, okay? The plot for Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 is complete, because we heard the script, right? Like, this wasn't long after people were completing Rebirth at the beginning of last year that we heard that Nomura and Kitase, they were all done with the script in like April or something like that. I think like April or May they were all done with the script, but now the plot, I guess everything else for part 3 is now finished, complete, and now they're looking forward to voice recording. So that means I'm kind of thinking, I've been putting this idea out there. Jeff Keighley, who has been getting the inside scoop, especially when it came to Rebirth, he made the announcement back in 2022 at Summer Games Fest. Do we think that it's off the table that we don't get some insight this year around the same point in time 3 years later after the 3-year-long development cycle? I would imagine so. Like, come on, man, I'm jonesing for it. I don't want to have to wait that long, but I know it's very likely that we won't see this game until 27, which I want to die inside, but hey, we can get it in 26 and then just do like a big repackaging and a remaster of Remake, and then just bundle all the games up in 27 for the 30th anniversary of Final Fantasy VII. That would be terrific. Okay, just get part 3 out there as fast as possible. That would be great and fantastic, because these guys, they have their head screwed on appropriately. That's what we've been talking about throughout this entire video. If you're looking for games that have something to say with their narrative, instead of trying to force an ideology on you, smooth brains that are out there that'll just say that the game is woke because they're pushing environmentalism. I don't know where you're coming out with that one, because that was the big motivation shift in Final Fantasy VII back when the game launched. Yeah, it's like, okay, Avalanche is trying to stop Shinra from stealing Mako energy, to stop tapping into the life stream. But spoiler, you end up kind of teaming up with Shinra. which is something that's going to be very interesting, especially, you know, in the first bit of part 3, which part 3, man, it's going to be wacky. Like, it's not really a complaint. My caveat, especially when it comes to the story of Rebirth, it's like things don't really start to kick into high gear until about 60% of the way through the game. But from the moment that you touch down in part 3, especially if it's going to be following the original the same way that the story has so far in this trilogy, like, it's just going to be big hit after big hit after big hit. All of the hallmark moments that people remember fondly of Final Fantasy VII, that's what part 3 is basically going to be all about. It's disc 2 onwards, baby. And this is why, to those smooth brains that are out there that just think, oh, we got lied to because we just wanted the remake, and oh, they ended up deviating too much and I don't like it because it wasn't a remake. It's like, you people, what do you mean you people? Well, I mean idiots. You're just far too difficult to please. Say you want one thing, and then when it's provided to you, instead of going, it's not my cup of tea, you're going to just try to slander it. And so the making of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I thought, if we just reproduce the original game with no changes, it will feel nostalgic but not exciting. Which is, yeah, exactly. Because if you would just want a remake of the original, oh my god, just download the Seventh Heaven mod manager and that shit is perfect. I still got to go back and play the original. It's been a minute. I haven't had a lot of time over the holidays. Things were very busy. But for the first half of January, the lead up to the PC port, I'm going to try to get sleep schedules and stuff back in check, because behind the scenes, you know, when I'm not recording, when I'm not putting on a show for everybody, I've been dying behind the scenes. But that's between me and my creator, that if I just continue to go down this path, I'm going to end up meeting him sooner rather than later. So your boy better get his health under control, otherwise won't be able to make that big long review that I so desperately want to. But looking at some of this interview, right, because this was Hamaguchi and Kitase sitting down, and we don't need to read all of it because a lot of it's just background, well-trodden ground, but it's a good read. If you like the stuff the way that I do, you can go ahead and read most of it, but I just want to read a couple of excerpts here. The game picks up in the middle of the story, and it finishes while still in the middle of the story, observes Kitase, yes, of part 2 of the trilogy. There is no real clear beginning or end, and there's much debate to the shape of the trilogy, and indeed whether it would even be one, when our scriptwriter, Kazushige Nojima, who also wrote a couple of companion books that are out there, On the Way to a Smile and Two Paths to Fate of Two, something like that. But if you want a spoiler of things to eventually come down the line, it's not exactly going to tell you where everything's going to lead up, but a lot of the stuff to do with certain aspects of a certain life stream, yeah, there's some stuff that's out there that Nojima wrote. They'll give you some insight. Okay, I don't want to spoil anything. But for everybody who wants to complain that the plot ghosts in the original game were big cringe, and they want to lay that at the feet of Nomura, that's more Nojima, who's very, very crazy, and a big reason why Final Fantasy VIII is as wacky as it is. Anyways, I submitted the script for Rebirth. I remember thinking I'd rather do it in a different way, recalls Naoki Hamaguchi, the game's director. Hamaguchi approached Kitase with a pitch to set aside Nojima's plan for the story and instead take the second game all the way up to a pivotal point in the narrative. Exactly, the moment where players discover the fate of one of Cloud's love interests, the placid flower seller, Aerith. There was definitely a debate, Kitase said. At one point, we thought maybe we could put everything into just 2 games. Or yeah, if you ended up, because Remake could have gone, like, if you wanted to do 2 games, yeah, you could have taken Remake and brought it all the way to where you ended. Oh, God, where would you take that? To the point where they cross the ocean? Maybe. Or maybe all the way up to Nibelheim. Return to Nibelheim, you could do that. But yeah, splitting it into 2 games, yeah, I don't know. Then, yeah, later we thought it needed to be 4. Yeah, that could have been a little bit better, because there was a lot of speculation when the game first came out, where it's like, okay, it's going to be a remake, and then it was announced, oh, it's going to be episodic. It's like, oh god, is it going to be in 7 parts? Because, you know, my thematics and all of my, you know, symbolism and shit. But then when it was announced it was a trilogy, it's like, okay, what's going to happen? Then it was announced, yeah, the first game's just going to be in Midgar. It's like, you guys going to end up cutting a lot of stuff out of your other 2 games if you're looking at, you know, a similar structure. But then smooth brains out there, oh, you just did, it's just a lot of padding and remake. Like, god damn it, man. I despise people who were already, you know, primed with a hate boner for Remake, you know, just coming out and making these stupid claims. Oh, it's not an RPG. Oh, Cloud is cringe. It's like, you got anything unique to say? Got anything that's actually substantive? No. If not, just go sit over there. It was only when work on the first game was properly underway that the team could see just how raw materials was needed for each game, and that they agreed on exactly where Rebirth would begin and end. Wow, it's almost like they developed a plan and they have this under control. Going ahead to what Kitase made headlines with the game so cherished, the Remake team were clear on the need to balance fans' expectation with their own personal vision. Kitase, who worked on the original game when everything from the hardware to the 3D technologies involved was new, considering making significant changes to the original storyline, believing that a novel take on the characters and plot might reinvigorate the classic, which could otherwise be over familiar. I thought, if we just reproduce the original game with no changes, it will feel nostalgic, but not very exciting. And fans of the original, who know everything that's coming, will soon get bored. Exactly, but as he reflected on the relationship those fans had developed with the original game characters across a period of 2 decades, he concluded that too much deviation could do a disservice to the game's legacy and might alienate people. Essentially, half of Final Fantasy VII, or maybe even more, is now owned by the fans. Wow! A developer, somebody behind the scenes, a director, a producer, actually appreciating what the fans bring to a series, not deriding them and thinking that they know better than the fans. Actually appreciating the support that they've got these 20 plus years. That's crazy. What do you think? I love this project so much. It's everything that I want to see in the greater entertainment sphere. It belongs to them as well as us, specifically in terms of their attachment to the characters. I realized we needed to be cautious in not changing those characters by turning them into different types of people. Simply delivering exactly the same storyline, however, with no new twists or revelations wouldn't be enough. Kitase believed that, while fans might appreciate the nostalgia at first, it would fail to grip or surprise them over the long term, and the team wanted to deliver a fresh experience, one that would keep players guessing all the way through. This balancing act is exemplified by the mysterious whispers, which, do play a lot into the story, but generally speaking, it's crazy, right? Because you have those whispers, and then it makes you think, oh god, they're making some changes, but then at the same time, the story, without getting too spoilery, is actually quite faithful, but for the fact that there are some changes, like, I could go ahead and give this one away. It's like, okay, Gungaga looks nothing like Gungaga, and it plays a significantly larger role in the overall story of Rebirth as opposed to the section that it played in the original, but it's very much for the better. It introduces some characters that are brought in some other Final Fantasy VII side stories and puts them into the story in a very coherent and appropriate way. But all in all, there's some new aspects to it that might keep you off balance, and especially some stuff that Sephiroth is talking throughout the first part of the game where it's like, no, they wouldn't go in that are they going in that no, they can't. No. Okay, good. They're not going. Oh no, they're going to no, they did. Okay, they did? No, they didn't. No. Okay. Got to keep it extremely vague. I don't want to be like those, launch day trailers that Square Enix and Sony were putting out that basically laid out the entire story. It's like, oh my god, what are you guys doing? Just terrible game trailers once again. But they have thought, they have care, they have love for this series, love for this game in mind, at heart, when it comes to developing this stuff. And when we eventually hear more news about this, and when we see if and how successful the PC port of Rebirth is, I will be very ecstatic to continue to cover this, because I want this to succeed, because it's everything that I want to see in the industry. People that care about the product that they're working on, are very passionate about it, don't hate the fans, and in fact embrace the fans. They have a story, they made a tremendous game, and if they hope to build on and improve what is already phenomenal, yeah, they deserve your support, they deserve your appreciation, and if more people had this approach in gaming, well, the rest of the industry wouldn't be burning down around them. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.